Hello and welcome to the CareSoft demonstration. In this demonstration, we'll cover signing up for CareSoft. We'll also cover the setup of your agency, the onboarding of your staff, as well as your clients or residents or individuals, whatever you call them, and that's customizable in the program, as well as we'll cover some day-to-day activities and reporting, as well as calendaring. All right, so let's get started. First off, in order to sign up for CareSoft, you'd want to click on the free trial option here. All right, so you click on free trial. You complete this information and go ahead and click submit. You will be asked for to enter your credit card information, but we do not charge you. 30 days, you have a 30-day free trial using CareSoft. During that time, you can do everything. All the full functionality of the program is available during that free trial. So once you've signed up, you will receive a username, password, as well as an agency code to log in. So let's go ahead and log into the system. All right. So once you log in, first off, notice here there's an acknowledgement alert. This is a customizable alert that you can have pop up for your agency. Matter of fact, you can customize up to 5 alerts currently in CareSoft. In this example, it's just saying, hey, you want your staff to just verify that they will be doing the work that they're expected to do during their shift using the system here. Some agencies will have, maybe let's say, for instance, you have a managers or staff meeting coming up, maybe a managers meeting and administrators meeting. You can actually create a custom alert that only managers and administrators will see. And then you can also have that alert go away after that meeting date. I'll show you a lot more about that as we go through the demonstration. So first off here, when you log in, on your left side, you'll see your menu items. You have the home, you have reports. The first 3 reports will remain static, and the remaining reports are alphabetized. You'll have your calendar items. You have 2 calendars, staff as well as resident. Now, we are using the word resident here, but if the word is, maybe you call them individuals or clients, that will change throughout the software. So that is customizable as well. Contact us. This is the easiest way to get in touch with us. You click on that button. It creates a ticket in our system, and we have a response time and SLA to make sure we follow up with all customers. So that's the easiest way to get in touch with us. My account allows you to change your username, password, things of that nature. Edit agency. Only your administrators will have access to the edit agency link here. Okay, so that gives you the ability to completely set up the agency using this section. Again, only administrators will have this access here. Chat with us. So you can chat with us real time during normal business hours. If we're online, we can answer questions quickly without even having to enter a ticket. But we do recommend creating a ticket because that way there'll be a follow-up. There's a follow-up process. Schedule training. You can go through the CareSoft training as many times as you want. Your staff can go through it. It's completely free. You can just click on schedule training, find our next available scheduled time, book that time, and then we will go through a process similar to what we're going to go through today, but we will have the ability to answer questions during that training as well. You can chart using the dark mode if you want to reduce eye strain, things of that nature. This gives you the ability to do that. Some people use it at night. Some people use it all the time. So that's an option. You can hide the menu, show the menu. CareSoft is what we call a responsive design software. What that means is that it responds to the screen size. So you can actually use this on a mobile device, maybe in your Safari browser if you're on an iPhone, or maybe the Chrome browser or the internet browser on an Android device. So this gives you the ability to move the screen and to kind of customize it the way you want. Again, it's called responsive design, means it will respond to the size of the screen and it will fit CareSoft so that it will work no matter the screen size. All right. So you also have this thing called useful links or useful websites. These are links that maybe you want your staff to have access to. Maybe there's a separate thing that you do for billing, or maybe there are other portals that your staff need to log into as a part of their normal day-to-day functionality. You can actually create these links, and this is done in the edit agency section. And when your staff clicks on it, they'll see a list of those bookmarks so that they can easily get to them. All right. In the middle section here, you have your alerts. So these are time-sensitive things that you that your staff and your managers and administrators need to be aware of. So in this example, you see here, we've got training and certifications that are overdue. And the way this works is that everything 30 days prior to, for instance, the training and certification expiration, it will show up here in the top section. You can see those items that are expiring. If you have staff checklist items, let's say, for instance, your expectations that you have to have maybe a staff's driver's license on file, right? So that list, that checklist item, you can have it. And 30 days, again, prior to that expiration, it will show up here in the alert section as well. If you have tasks that are due or they're due today, they will show up. Overdue tasks as well that you've assigned to staff. Resident checklist items. Again, these are time-sensitive things for the resident as well as for the agency. Of course, only administrators will see this because this is an agency-level checklist item. But these are all options here: overdue medications, calendar items that are happening today, as well as low pill count. So you can see these alerts. They'll always be here at the top of the page. All right. In order to get to a form, you can just simply scroll down to the form that you need to get to, or you can just start typing. So if I just start typing progress notes, I'll see the forms that are available there. The way this works is, in order to use the forms, it's very, very simple. It's intentionally that you can't really make a mistake. If you want to add anything, you click the plus button. So if you wanted to add a new staff person in the system, you click plus. If you want to make changes, you want to print, you want to edit, you want to activate, deactivate staff, you click on the edit button. All right. So that's how this works. And this works for all of the forms. Now, I'm logged in as an administrator. So I will see all the administrative functions as well as the manager functions, as well as the staff functions. Most agencies, when they set up CareSoft, only the admins and managers will see these two top forms. These are obviously, you can add staff, you can add residents, you can change them, deactivate them. Most agencies restrict this to admins and managers. So your general staff will probably come in and see it look like this. Of course, they will also have the ability to search by forms. Now, but you can customize that. Some agencies may want to have their staff have access to the residents to be able to make modifications to the residents record. But in most instances, managers and admins have access to that. On the right, you can also sort these forms. If you click on show forms, you can actually say, you know what, medication logs, that needs to be the first form. This is what I use every day. We really maybe don't use the shift summary as much. And let's say, for instance, you say, you know what, we don't really use the vehicle tracking at all. If you click on the down arrow, it will actually put it down into the lower section here. Remember to save your changes. And now you can see here medication log is the number one form. That vehicle tracking, if I go back down into other forms, I will see it here as well, sorted alphabetically. So if I wanted to get to it, I still can. I can always move it back up by going back into this sort forms. Now, if you do not want to see a form at all, let's say, for instance, you do not use the residential visit form, right? You can completely get rid of it in the edit agency section, and we'll touch on that in just a minute. So that's a nice segue into the edit agency. Now we're going to go through the setting up of your agency. All right, so let's go ahead and click on edit agency. All right, and again, only administrators will have this. So once you sign up for CareSoft, some of this information will be pulled in, like your company address, phone number, etc. So that information will be pulled in. One important thing that you'd want to change is, what do you call your clients, right? So this is, I would say, definitely you want to change that. If it's individual, resident, client, whatever term you use, you'd want to put that, and just put the singular term of it, because it will automatically, the system will calculate if it needs to be plural or not in the system. Another thing you want to point out here, and this doesn't have to be done right away, but this is something you may want to come back to. There's that big report, the treatment plan, a ISP, IPP, or whatever that report is called. You'd want to name that here, because that is that report that will show here in the second report, the second link, right? And that way it's easy for you to know, okay, this is my treatment plan or my ISP or IPP or whatever that is. There are other items that you can use. So for instance, if you have a specific ID that you use in your agency, you'd want to call that as an ID label. If you have a secondary one, you can use that as well. But again, some of these you can come back to. I'd point out just a few more. So one is urgent notification emails. This is just the default email that will be used when you want to, your staff has an urgent item, they want to send it. This email will pop in just in case they forget that email. Now, they can actually type an email as well when they're doing that urgent notification, but it's helpful to put it there just so they have access to it. And some forms may require, like the incident report, to make sure you have that all set up and have that all in place. Locations and facilities. So this is where you enter your locations and facilities. If you have multiple, you can enter that. My account settings. So this allows you to define what will show up in this My Account settings. So in this example, you can see your staff. They have access to, they can see their emergency contacts. They can also upload their signature. Again, you can also do real-time signatures, but you also have the ability to upload it as well. But they can't see maybe staff files, and they can't see maybe the staff checklist items as well. It's just up to you. But the defaults are typically what most agencies will use. Show hide forms. This is a very important section. This is how you define access throughout the system and as well as the forms. So if I open this section, what you see here, and I'll just point out a few forms that actually will allow me to explain this properly. So if we go down to, let's say, the progress notes, because this is such a widely used form and has the most functionality in our system. So if you see here, admins, managers, and staff have access to progress notes, which makes sense because typically everyone can enter a progress note if they're working with a client. Also notice here, progress notes has this custom field option. So with some of our forms, and we're adding more every day, you can actually add your own custom field into the progress notes. So you can add as many as you want, and you can decide what type of field they are. So in this example here, I've created this custom field called place of service, and it's a select box, meaning you can just select an item similar to this box itself. And here are the values that I want my staff to be able to pick from, right? And you can make it required or not. You can add many of these, as many as you want for this custom field. Now, on the right side, you'll see signature options and email options. Now, you can see here, in this example, I'm saying show the manager's signature, show the staff signature, show the resident's signature. Now, not all agencies require a resident to sign a progress note, but if yours does, you can enter that. And you can even have an option to show other signature, which allows you to actually have someone external sign a progress note. It will basically ask for their email address when you're doing the progress note, and then they can sign that. And then you can also make those things required. Like, okay, I want to require the staff signature. So this is all up to you, but that gives you an example. Now, another form, maybe let's say, for instance, if we go up to the medications form, notice this form has admins and managers. It doesn't mean that your staff cannot track medications on a day-to-day basis. That form is called the medication log form. But the medications is entering the medications in the system. In this example, your admins and managers can do that, but your general staff cannot add medications or edit medications, but they can actually do the day-to-day tracking. Also, you can see here in this example, they're requiring the staff signature as well as the resident signature. All right, we'll flip back over to this section a number of times during this discussion, just so you can so that it really kind of, I want to make sure it sinks in, and there are a few instances where it makes sense for us to flip back to it. So we will come back to this as we go through this demonstration. Now, if you see here, progress notes option. So our progress notes is not just a box where you just say, hey, the resident had a good day today. You can do that, and it can be that simple, but it also allows you to track your behaviors, your goals, your interventions, skills, doctor visits, and a number of other things. So this will allow you to decide, while I'm doing a progress note, what are the other things that I want to track? So I'll go ahead and open this up. And of course, in my demo instance here, I have all of these items checked. So while I'm doing a progress note, I can make sure I can track their goals and the skills and service log and billing and activity logs and daily food intake and vital signs and resident counseling and group therapy and all these items. So I have the ability to say, hey, while you're doing a progress note, why don't you just knock all these other things off as well, assuming those things existed today, or those behaviors or et cetera happen. Now, you can also make those sections required. In order to make this section required, that's one of the challenges. If you make it required, that means your staff has to enter that information. So for instance, if you made behaviors required, but there are no behaviors that day, that means your staff cannot submit the form because they have to select the behavior or they're going to have to make something up. So why would you even have this option? Well, there are some instances where it does make sense for you to have a section required. For example, some of our day programs use a service log billing functionality where that's how they actually get paid, meaning that if the staff doesn't say, hey, we spent 2 hours with this client, going to the doctor, then you won't get paid for it. So because the staff is maybe required to do a progress note, you have the service log billing option there. You make it required when the staff is filling out their progress note, they have to complete that section and you can track the hours, etc. So if there is a situation like that where, for instance, an activity log or something else is required, you can also make that required. But in most often, you do not want to check that. All right. So service billing, I won't spend a lot of time on this. This is more of an advanced training, but I will cover it quickly. So what we have is that you can actually track things on an hour by hour basis in CareSoft. And this is a lot of day programs will use this functionality more so than our group homes. But you can define service codes. So you can just add new service codes if there's some specific type of service code that you want to track. And these are just kind of, okay, maybe you have one called doctor visits. And some agencies, these actually might be numbers, XYZ, because it's an actual service code that they're putting in. And you can just enter that. The monthly or daily billing is not as important because that's just how you want to summarize the information. But really what's important is actually entering the service codes that you want to track. And then you go to the settings as far as just how do we want to track this? First off, you definitely, if you want to track the service code in hour by hour billing, you'd want to turn this on the progress note. So I think that's something you definitely want to do. But then there are two options here. Do you want to track it with service code, or do you want to track it with service code and authorization code? So what's the difference? Service code, you simply go, you do a progress note, you choose the service code, you said I spent 2 hours with this client, maybe you might put the mileage as well and some additional notes, and you're done. And then we generate a service log billing report. You can export that information for your billing purposes. You can also track with service code and authorization code. What that is that you've now made it very specific. So each client will have a different authorization code, and they may get maybe 20 hours towards this, another 10 hours towards this. So if you track this option, if you choose this option for every client, you will need to go in, choose a service code, how many hours they have with that, and do that. And once those hours get used up, using the service log, it will say, hey, you've already used that information up for the month or whatever that is until you refresh it. So that gives you the ability to kind of track that at a more granular level. Most of our customers just use the service code, but that is an option. And then you have some restrictions. You want to enable the billing restrictions. Maybe you can only bill for 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week, or make sure your staff don't repeat and bill the same clients multiple times. So these are options that you can turn on as well in that service log billing section. Okay, so our report options. So these are the reports that you want your staff to see. So for instance, in this example, the agency checklist reports, only the administrators could see that because it's at the agency level, right? And you can decide, all right, managers, maybe the COVID report, this was a big thing a while back. But for HIPAA reasons, you may not want all your staff to see everybody else's COVID report because this is the staff COVID report, right? So that information there. So you can pick and choose who will see what report. Now, remember when you first logged into the system, there was that pop-up message that said, hey, there was an acknowledgement alert. This is where you define that information here in CareSoft. And you can see here, this was the message that we had displaying. And we say this one we want it to always display, and we want our managers, staff, and admins to see that. And then let's say, for instance, here's another example where, okay, we've got an admin and manager staff meeting on August 1st. We only want this to show during a certain date range. Obviously, it ends on August 1st, and only my managers and admins will see that when they log in. You can choose up to 5 of those as well. IP restrictions, this is a more of an advanced feature. Agencies that require staff to only use the system while they're in the agency, they can't use it on their phones, etc. They would enable this, but this is an advanced option. You'll need to work with your network administrator to verify that the IP address will not change, because if it does, your staff may not be able to log in because it thinks they're not at work, right? So that's something there. This is a new feature that we're working out the details on. This is only available to some of our customers, so we'll skip that for now. It's kind of a pre feature. Staff training and certifications. So this is where you list out the training and certifications that you want your staff, that you want to track for your staff. We create like this generic list here that you can delete and edit, but most agencies will put in a list similar to this. But you can add your own. You can delete the ones that we have here as well. You can rename as well. So basically, if you track, maybe your agency requires your staff to have CPR certification. Here's where you list the items. When you get to the actual staff record, you can choose, okay, the staff has this certification. You can even upload the certification, add notes to it, as well as say when it expires. And again, 30 days prior to that expiration, it will show up in that alert section on the home page. Same thing with staff checklist. Maybe you have a requirement to have a copy of their driver's license because they drive the staff or your clients around, and you need to make sure that their license is valid. You can upload that into the system. You can also set the date of expiration, and 30 days prior, it will start prompting you that, hey, this is going to expire. Make sure you get that information from your staff. Same thing with residents. If you have time-sensitive items, you can list them here so that they can follow the same process. You can upload them for the resident, and again, 30 days prior, they'll show up. Also for agency. So just at a high level, things that need to happen for your agency. Now, since we are an edit agency and we're at the agency level, not only do we list the items here that we want to track, but this is where you would actually do the tracking for the agency items. So for instance, in this example, you can see here, tax renewal forms, maybe the date received, the date of renewal, and of course, again, prior to that. And let's just go ahead and change that. This is my demo account, so it will have information like this. But let's say, for instance, this expires, I don't know, let's say in December. All right, we'll say at the end of the year. All right, so that information now is added, updated. You can upload the files. You can upload your existing tax renewal. You can also add notes. And this same functionality will be there when we get to the staff and the actual client record for their certifications and checklist items as well. Agency files. So now this is a cloud-based system. So you can create your you have folders that you can upload files to. You can create subfolders and subfolders for those agency files. You can also do the same thing for staff files. You can also do the same thing for your clients or residents as well. They have their own structure. You can actually go there and pick a client, see the files that are uploaded. You can create folders as well for that. Security, this is sometimes used by agencies that share computers where you want to time out the sessions earlier and not save the password, so your staff will have to be forced to log in. This just prevents staff from using a shared computer and logging in as someone else and not realizing that they're updating their notes under another user's information as well. So that just basically reduces the session timeout. Useful links. So these were those links that I showed you here on the left side. You can put these links in, and that way your staff can have easy access to links that they may forget or websites that they might forget. Finally, what you want to do is upload your company logo, because obviously we want to print that out on the forms on Caresoft. So you'd want to make sure you upload your logo, make sure you hit submit form, and then you are all set. Matter of fact, I will go ahead and submit form in this case because I did change the one of the checklist items for the agency. And where our agency is completely set up, we're ready to go. All right, so now we will switch and we will go into the onboarding portion. All right, so onboarding. All right, so what we want to do is, in order to get staff in the client in the system, you want to click the plus button to add. All right, there are only a few fields that are required in order to get your staff in the system: first name, last name, and access level. All right, we strongly recommend you also put in an email address as well as a cell phone number at a minimum. But if you don't, it will allow you to enter a staff in the system. So let's talk a little bit about this access level. We have three default access levels: staff, managers, and admins. The main difference between the admin and the manager is the one that we've called out before, is that edit agency, only the administrators have that. They can set up things on a global level for the entire agency. Managers do not have access to that. But aside from that, managers can see multiple clients' information. They can edit. They have pretty much full access throughout the system. But obviously, staff can only add. They can't edit other staff's information. You can restrict certain forms that only staff can. I mean, that only managers and admins can see. So you can actually pick and choose in that show hide form section on what your staff has access to as well. All right. Now, again, if you do not enter an email and you do not enter a cell phone, and let's say, for instance, you just wanted to quickly get the staff in the system and say, okay, I'll come back and fill out all these other sections later, and you click add, it will not know where to send it because it can't send a password for them to log in. It will generate a temporary username and password on the next screen that you'll give to your staff, and then they'll be required to change that when they log in. It's very important that no one has access to anybody else's information in the system, because this is a HIPAA compliant software. If you're not sure who's entering information, it becomes very difficult for you to kind of maintain your compliance. So we strongly recommend that you do not share that information. And then, all right, but let's go into some of these other fields here. You can see here, you can restrict staff to selected facilities. You have the ability to enter their address information. You can assign staff to specific residents. This is an option. You can, let's say, for instance, this staff is only going to work with Alex, right? Well, the only challenge with that is that if that staff's on vacation and, you've said only the staff can work with them, staff won't remember that. And then you're on vacation, someone else says, okay, let me fill out Alex's information. And they cannot because they don't have access to it. So we strongly recommend that you choose everyone unless you absolutely need to, or make sure you have coverage there. Now, since we're actually on the staff form, this is how we would actually track the certifications for the staff person. Let's say this new person, we have this information, we have their behavior management training. We can say, okay, this is completed. Maybe the date, maybe they got their training last October and it expires. I'm just putting some dates here. I chose this October, and let's say it expires. Actually, let's say it expires next October, right? And we can say, all right, so now we've got that information in, and you can upload the actual behavior management training and maybe even add some notes. And again, these are all the items that we listed in Edit Agency, and so that's why we see all of these here. You can track their job references. I won't go into the details of all of these. You can track written warnings. You can track annual performance reviews, staff checklist items, again, similar to the one above, maybe a copy of the driver's license. You can say, okay, it's received, the date received, date of renewal. Again, 30 days prior to that date of renewal, it'll pop up on the alert screen on the home page. All right, so we'll skip through all of this. You can also track the staff's emergency contact, as well as they can upload their own signature. But again, they can also do the signature real time while they're submitting the forms. And then when you're done, you click add to add the staff, or add a new, which will add the staff and take you back to this page to add another one. All right, I'm going to click home. All right, I do not want to add the staff. But now let's say, for instance, I've added all my staff in the system and I want to see them. If I click on the pencil, meaning I want to make changes to something that already exists, I want to make changes, print, etc., I click on this. You can see here on my active staff, the inactive staff, as well as the total. You can actually just start typing a name and it will pull the staff person up. You can also make sure if you have multiple pages, you can deactivate staff from here. You can edit staff. You can do a quick hover to see the staff's information. If there's a picture of the staff, it will also show here. If we do not charge for deactivated staff in the system, we only charge for the active staff that can actually log in. If you're a deactivated staff, you can't log in, but your information is still available. And so if I click show, you can see, and you can actually reactivate that staff's information as well. And again, we only charge for the active staff that's using the system. Throughout the system, you may see the word deactivate, delete, archive. Those are all interchangeable terms. It just depends on where you are. But we do not delete anything from the system. So if you think something is completely deleted, it's not. And if you reach out to support, there's a chance that we can recover that, because, again, we just deactivate the information. We don't really delete it. All right. So let's go back home. So that's how you would get to your staff. Same thing applies for residents, or again, this could be resident client. It depends on what you've set up. So if I click the plus button, the only required fields here for your residents are first name and last name. But you can see you have lots of options. I won't go through all of them. You can track their diagnosis. You can track housing information. You know, if they're not there, maybe for day programs, etc. Intake questions. You can track some of the intake information. Now, this form does allow you to add custom fields. So you can add, if there are things that are missing here, you can add your own fields into the system as well. Behavioral issues and precautions, you can add that information. Identification, the IDs that you track. And I will actually open Edit Agency. I'm going to open that in the new tab just because I want to refer back to it here on this page. If you go down and we go to notice here we have resident ID label. We said client ID, and we said the secondary one is bed number. And if you go here, and you may not actually be seeing that tab, I just realized that, but that tab allows you to see here, you can see the client ID as well as the bed number. And it's because we define those items in Edit Agency. Matter of fact, I'll just click back over to Edit Agency since we can't switch over to that tab. I'll just go back over to Edit Agency. You can see here is because we said client ID and bed number. So that's why you see that on this editing of the client's page. So let's go back to that. I'm sorry, adding of the residence page. So let's go back to it. And that's why you see these ID numbers again, because those are custom. Summary and warnings. So as you can see here, this is where you would enter that summary information about the client. This is typically what you might put on an ISP or IPP report or treatment plan. You'd want to dump all of that data into here. Sometimes you may copy it from a Word doc or something else. And that's important because this will be used in some of our reports and our treatment plan reports, etc. And then if you have any urgent issues or warnings, this is important as well, because this will show up throughout the system in lots of forms. Let's say the client will run in the street or something like that. You want to put that there because on the client's record, on most of the things that you print out, it will show this, whatever message that you put here. You can track the conservatory and guardianship. You can track placing agency, caseworker information. You can enter all of that, assign residents to staff. And this works the same way as they're assigning staff to residents. And again, you also want to be mindful that you have some sort of coverage if, for instance, you only assign one resident to this staff person and the staff person's on vacation, then no one will be able to enter that. So we usually recommend you just choose all as the default. You can track medical information, medical coverage, physical characteristics and diet, budgeting and bank account information, approved, unapproved, call, visit, etc. Who's they're approved, not approved. You can track emergency contacts, family. You can add different family members, relationship, etc. Education, current, previous, as well as aftercare planning. Like after they leave your agency, what will their transportation needs be, treatment services needs, etc. And then the checklist items for for the resident. And these are the two items that we had when we set up an Edit Agency. So these are listed here. And again, the same thing applies. You enter this information 30 days prior to this date of renewal. It will show up as an alert. You click the Add button to add this person in the system, or add a new, which will add the resident and take you back to this page to add another resident. All right, so let's click Home. All right, so now we have the residents in the system. Same thing applies if you want to view or make modifications to the existing residents. So you click on the pencil. You can deactivate, activate. We allow you to have as many residents as you want. We don't charge based on the number of residents. Again, inactive ones will show up here. You can also just click on inactive records, which will give you a list of all the inactive records. I'm just going to go back to total records. You can see them here. You can also start typing by name, and you will see them show up. Deactivate, edit. If I want to make changes to this record, I can click on it. And obviously, you can always change the picture, upload the picture for your residents as well as your staff. And if you just quick hover, you can also get that information. All right. And as far as printing and stuff, we'll cover that later when we get into the reports section. All right. Okay, so now we've done the onboarding of your staff and residents, and now we want to switch into some of the day-to-day forms. All right, and we'll start off with the progress notes. All right, so progress notes. In order to add a new progress note, you simply click the plus button. Now remember, our progress note allows you to just do a progress note, of simple one, but it also allows you to track a number of things, behaviors and skills, etc. We're going to use John Doe for our example here. So I choose John. Notice there was that facility option at the top. That just gives you the ability to filter by clients in specific facilities. Notice here at the top, you see John's, some information about John, as well as that urgent issue and warning. You can see here that just this is a call out that we want to just share throughout the system. Again, you can change the picture and just some high level information here about John. Now, out of the box, if you didn't, let's say for instance, by default, obviously it will show today's date, the date range. So most agencies, the progress notes is a single day, but you do have option of saying some agencies will maybe have a week where the progress note is for a range of days. And of course, by default, we will have absent as no, but you can always change that. And this is a customizable list of what the absent options are as well. And that is something in Edit Agency that I'll switch back over to and show you in just a minute, that you can customize that. Again, date of activity, default. If you've defined shifts, they will show up here. If you have facilities, they will show up here. If you've defined services provided that you want your staff to pick from, maybe every time they do a progress note, you can define those as well. If you don't have those things set up in Edit Agency, they will not show here. Okay. And we'll come back over to Edit Agency in just a second, so you can see where those options are. You have an optional title. Again, these are all optional things. And you have this appointments and/or community activities. We have an entire activity log form, but this is just if you wanted to just do a quick summary and not go into all the details as far as the activity log. Program type, if you have, for instance, in Edit Agency, some agencies will be day programs and group homes, and they'll want their staff to track, okay, this was done in the day program, this was done in the group home. So again, lots of these options may not show up by default, but we're just, because I'm in the demo, I want to show you what those options are. So let's get down to the actual things that you actually have to enter. So all of that were optional. Let's see here. What you see on the screen is pretty much the only thing that's required. And really just the items that are checked with the asterisks, these 3 items. Now notice here at the top, you see this template. I can just say, all right, here's what, let's say John had a good day. All right, let's say that. All right, he tried to leave. And but let's say, for instance, your agency requires your staff to enter their progress notes in a very custom way. You can define templates that you can pick from, and these are just kind of like writing prompts for your staff. So let's say, for instance, we have the shift summary template that you want to use. You want your staff to put, just because this is the way you want to enter this. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend a form like this in CareSoft, because we have a separate meal form that will track this much more detail that you can report on. We obviously have a behavior form, medications, etc. But this is just an example. But let's say you want to change this template. You don't, maybe you just want to make a modification to it. Here you see this add edit progress note template. Now, this template, you can restrict to maybe admins and managers that you want to have define these templates. Because if you have all your staff, maybe they'll just put, because everyone will see this list of templates. This is shared across the agency. So if you just have everyone entering it, this could become a long list of things. Maybe you want to restrict that. That is up to you. And I'll show you that in just a minute, how to restrict that. So if you click here, add edit progress note template, I can go in, I can add a new template, or I can edit the existing template. Let's say, for instance, I want to go to that shift summary template. I can go ahead and make some changes to it, make some changes here, and then I would just submit that. And then template would be updated. I'll just close out of that. I don't want to do that. Let's just go back to our general template, and let's just say that that's it. All right. And goals met. So this is a custom field that was added for this form. So you'll see some custom fields throughout as well. But let's just go to what was required. If I said, let's say there maybe the goals I'm not tracking today, I can just say not applicable. And then I can simply scroll down and submit this form and I'm done. But let's go through some of the more complex or more advanced features of the system that really make this progress note really as good as it is. So let's say we know John didn't meet his goals because one of his goals is he will stay at the day program without, he will go to class without attempting to leave. So we say no. Now notice all the goals that you've defined for John now show up. You can see here John will spend the entire 6 hours a day program without attempting to AWOL. And we know that John did not meet this. So let's say no. Now you can also define action steps for each of these goals. So this is up to you. In this example, we have action steps and we say, okay, we met them. And then let's say John met all of his other goals. So we can just say yes, just to quickly go through this. All right. And you can also write notes on every one of these. Let's say, for instance, if we go back up, we can say, getting better. I don't know, just putting something there. All right. And let's say again, John met all of his other goals. Okay. Now, notice here on the right side, we had this add new goal and archive goal. Again, this is a customizable option that depends on how you set up Edit Agency, who will have access to this. So in the show hide form section, if you've selected managers and admins, only the manager and admin will see this option. And that's most of the time you'll see these. It's up to you, but you will define who has options here. Now in that section, doesn't mean your staff can't track goals. It just means that they can't modify those goals. All right. And so when we complete this form, I'll switch back over to Edit Agency to show you what I mean by that. Okay. And again, so that will give them the ability to archive as well as add. Did the resident see a doctor or other provider today? Again, no problem. If I say yes, this section opens up. I can see here my list of providers. I'm just going to randomly select one. Let's say, and let's actually do, yeah, that's fine. And let's say the was 9 o'clock a.m. Doctor or counselor visit, reason for visit. And let's say, there were no labs because this was a counselor. We can say reason for visit, just goal, check up, appointment summary notes. All right. And maybe you have a follow-up appointment in maybe at the end of the month. Okay. And that maybe let's also at 9 o'clock a.m. And let's say I want to add this to the resident's calendar so we can see that on the calendar. All right. Did you observe a behavior today? Again, if we say yes, that section opens up. We did notice that John attempted to AWOL once. If I open that, notice here you see what happens is that this section now opens up. You can have a detailed behavior report, and you have the option of choosing severity of the behavior, 5 being serious, life-threatening, 1 being not no injury, no damage behavior, etc. Let's say we just say that this is a 1. And the interventions, my favorite part of the software. What did you do to combat this behavior? Let's say we know that he just gets antsy. We just need to give him a walk first thing in the morning, and then he'll sit. So we say we went for a walk, and this is successful. You can even track some additional information here. The really cool thing about this is that if you have new staff, they've come in, they can see what interventions other staff have entered, and they can also track if it's successful or unsuccessful. And of course, in the report section, you'll be able to report on this, see what your staff thinks is working or not working. We're not prescribing anything, but it's valuable information. And you can also enter a new intervention and track if it's successful or unsuccessful. And guess what? The next time you come into this form, that new intervention will show up here as an existing intervention that's used. All right, let's say there were no other behaviors. And again, same thing on the right. Add new behaviors, archive new behaviors. Who has access to this? It's completely up to you. That's a setting we're going to switch back to once we're done with this form. We'll touch back on that and Edit Agency to show you how you can restrict who can add this information. All right, did you observe a skill or task today? If you click yes, this section opens up. Let's say John, he's done that with no assistance. comb his own hair. Also, he's got that figured out. Controlled temper, maybe partial assistance. He needs full assistance with developing his realistic goals. And maybe I'm just going to click through the rest of these as well. And let's just say no assistance for these other ones. Now, these are skills. So while behaviors, you would enter your behavior directly, skills we assign skills, because skills we take from a database of skills, of categories of skills that you can pick from. For instance, if we want to work on, let's say, John's, I don't know, maybe general shopping skills, all right? And we say, all right, we want him to be able to buy his own clothes, right? We can add that, we can assign that skill. So we're picking from a database of skills here. I'm not going to add it, but you can see that's how that works. And again, you have the option of deciding who has option, the ability to assign as well as archive. And we'll touch on that in just a minute. Service log billing. So this is, if you need to track things on an hour by hour basis for billing purposes, this is where you would do that, right? So we've got the service log billing. So let's say, for instance, we have a, 8 o'clock. Actually, we said 9 o'clock. Let's do 9 because we went to counselor. And then let's say we want to go to 11 a.m. And we do 2 hours and we choose a billing code. And do I have one? I don't know. Maybe let's say client behavior visits. All right. And you can track the mileage, etc. And then there are a number of other forms here. I won't go through all that. We have a lot to cover, but they all work the same thing. You can do an activity log while you're doing this. You can enter vital signs of weight, daily food intake, counseling sessions, group therapy, enter a contact note if the staff, maybe the resident met with their parents or something like that, or someone else. And then you can enter the signature. Would you like to enter signature, right? And, maybe in this case, we'll just say, staff signature. You can actually type it in, or if you've uploaded a signature, it will show as well. And then let's say, for instance, we have Met residence, signature, and you also can upload attachments related to a progress note. If there's a change of condition, you'd want to check that and write that in. And if it's something that's urgent, you'll see this on all the day-to-day forms. You can just click on that, and by default, it will put the email that you entered in edit agency, but you can actually just add a comma separated list, and it will send a copy of this progress note to those individuals. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to send myself an email. All right, and so you'll also see this on all the day-to-day forms. What would you like to do next after you submit this form? What do you want to do? What I want to do in this example is I want to go to the home page. So if I click submit, I've now added this progress note, and I'm back on the home page. Okay, so before we continue on into the other day-to-day forms, I want to flip back over to edit agency quickly just to show you what I meant by access to these forms. So if we go back down into the show hide form section, remember when we were saying, okay, we were on the goals forms, right? So here, if you see goals, admins and managers have access to goals. It doesn't mean your staff cannot track the goals on a progress note. It just means that they cannot add new goals and they cannot archive those goals. So these sections here determine who can, archive and add. It doesn't mean that you cannot track the day-to-day goals. All right. So just in the same thing we mentioned for some of the other forms as well. I just wanted to quickly jump back over there to show you that information. All right. So now let's go into the medications. All right. So for medications, first thing you want to do is actually add the medication in the system. And then we want to go through the day-to-day process of doing the medication log. All right. So first off is we want to add. So we click the plus button. We choose the resident. And in this case, I'll just show you if there was a facility, let's say in the North Side facility, and I chose that, you can see, oh, okay, only John is in that facility, but it's John's who we want anyway. So again, you'll see the summary information at the top. And let's go down into some of the details. The date of the start of this medication, the date to stop, obviously it become discontinued after that stop date, whether it's not, some sort of classification prescribed over the counter, you can customize that. And if it's a controlled substance, you want to check that because then it'll show up on that controlled substance report. We use an international database of medications. So if I just start typing, matter of fact, I'll escape out of this before I do this because I want to show you. If you choose this auto-populate option, what will happen is that it will automatically populate and see, because I did select one, it automatictically populated the information for that medication here. So let's actually just put in a different one, Advil. And let's say it's just Advil, right? You can see here that information automatically populates to get the side effects, the purpose, the directions, warnings, and you can edit this information if you want. All right. Then you'd want to enter the dosage and the total pills. We do strongly recommend, it's not required to enter the total pills, but in order for us to decrement or just to, every time someone takes a pill, we say, okay, you have one less pill. You started off with 30, now you have 29. We don't know what that information is unless you enter the total pills. You also choose the days of the week. Most often we recommend you choose all the days. If you say, okay, the medication is only done on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but let's say, for instance, Monday you didn't take it, and then Tuesday, because you've unchecked it, say they don't take the med that day, it'll say, hey, this is for Tuesday. You can't do it because the client's not supposed to do that on Tuesday. So just be mindful of that. Then you would choose the interval for that medication. Refills. This is an important section as well. If you know the refills, please go ahead and enter them up front, because our system is smart enough to know that, okay, this date has kicked in and this refill is now, we need to switch to that refill. Let's say, for instance, this medication was started in September, or maybe it started in August, and our first refill is in September. All right. So, and let's say we have 30 pills there, and that's refill number 1. Right. And then we have another one in October, right? So we'll say October 1st was the second refill. And again, let's just say 30. And we know that's refill number 2. And of course, you can put notes on these refills as well. And then let's go ahead and let's say the third and final refill is November 1st, right? And then we put the 30 pills there, as well as refill number 3. Now, of course, because this is the current month, we'd want to check that as the current refill. And the way that works is that when you're doing your pill count report, it'll say, okay, John has taken 4 pills of refill number 2. And that just so you can always see clearly what refill is being used. Now, let's say, for instance, November 1st shows up, right? It's November 1st now. It will automatically switch to this refill number 3, as the current refill. So it will automatically switch to that one. So that's important. If you have them, go ahead and add them in. And that way your pill count report will always reflect information properly. Of course, you have all these optional fields that you can enter. And then when you're done, you simply click add. And you'll see the same options here as well. What would you like to do next? Add another medication, progress note, etc. You just click add. I'm not going to add this medication, so I'll move away from this. Now, because I've entered a bunch of information here on this page, it's saying, hey, changes you've made have not been, may not be saved, but in this example, it's okay, because I do want to leave the page. And I'm just pointing that out because the system will help you to make sure that you're actually doing the work and you're saving the information properly. Okay, now you have all the medications in the system. Now let's do the day-to-day tracking of that. So if I click on the add button here, choose the resident, I'll just choose John Doe. We have John's medications already in the system. Let's choose the interval. So it'll just pull from the intervals that John has. So if John had a 6 o'clock medication, it would show here as well. But it only shows based on the intervals that we have. Let's go ahead and do John's morning 8 a.m. Now, when I select that, all the medications that are supposed to be administered in morning 8 a.m., they now show up. I can simply just say select all. But if you've entered the pills taken, it's going to require you to enter that information. If you haven't, it will still have that option, but it's not required. But I'm just going to go ahead and put 1 for all of these. And then obviously we'll also automatically put in the time taken. And let's say we go ahead and add this, and then it's requiring a signature for the staff. It's requiring a signature for the resident as well. And I will go ahead and say, what do I want to do next? Let's go ahead and add another medication log. Let's say, for instance, we've done his morning 8 a.m. and we also want to do his maybe noon medication. So let's go ahead and choose now noon. And now if I select all, you can see here only the medications to be administered at noon show up. So now you only have 2. And let's say, for instance, there's some sort of change or irregularity with the medication, the noon medication. Let's say the medication was refused and maybe it was administered by someone else. Let's say it was not this person, maybe someone just say, I was out, but I know that, let's say staff, I don't know, let's say the staff's name is Brian Smith, entered it, right? And we can sign it as well, and resident signature, all right? And in this case, I don't want to add another medication. I will just click on go to the home page. So now I've added John's morning as well as noon medication. Let's quickly flip over to the MAR report. And again, the MAR is one of the 3 reports that here are stand at the top. Let's click on the MAR. Let's create a report, and let's choose John. And close as you can see, you do multiple at the same time. We'll just do John in this case. And we want to just do John's October MAR. Right? You can see there are other options here if you want to display the time taken, resident signature, initials, display, the directions, purpose, any kind of, if you only want to pick certain things, you can choose. But we're just going to go ahead and create this report. All right, with the defaults. Let's make this a little bit bigger. As you can see here, we are on the 18th. You can see this was the noon medication. We said Brian Smith entered it, and you can see, well, it attempted to, and it says it refused. So you can see there's a label, and then you can see all of the morning meds were entered. And I'm logged in as manager demo. My initials are MCD, so you can see my initials next to all of those medications. You can see here this other noon medication also has that red, which means that it was refused. Okay, and you can just see some summary information about the resident at the end of the MAR. All right, so now that we have the MAR, we do have another one sheet called the MAR worksheet, which allows you to kind of make bulk modifications, enter the MAR by, for instance, you can enter the entire day at a time. This is used when you need to make corrections. I won't spend a lot of time on that. We're almost out of, I want to continue moving on here. There are a number of other forms that you can go through. They're all pretty self-explanatory. I'll just point out a couple here that that may be slightly different. For instance, here you have the resident files. So this gives you the ability to upload files for any of your clients. You can create folders, subfolders. Again, this is a cloud-based system. So if I click manage files here, you can see I've got all these folders. Maybe if I go into the health information folder, doctor visits, immunization records. Let's say, for instance, we just realized that we do have John's 2018 information. We call his doctor's his previous doctor, and he says, yeah, you should probably, let's get that information. So I've created this folder. I can open this folder and I can click add files, which will just ask you, it'll prompt you to upload the files from your computer. As you can see here, you can copy these folders, move them, zip them, delete them, etc. I'm going to actually just delete this folder, but you can actually also rename the folders or as well. As you can see here, I can change the name, but I'm just going to delete this folder. All right. So now we've deleted that folder. We're back to here. Let's go back home. So that's one of the forms that's slightly different from the other ones where you can upload information. You've got staff shift schedule, activity logs. So some of these forms that we mentioned, like activity log, they're forms on their own as well. You can also just complete them while you're doing a progress note. So you'll see, you see the separate form by itself, but also on the progress note. You can see here we have lots of forms to choose from. We also have the ability to customize forms or create new forms based on, if customers ask. We do charge a fee to create new forms or to make major customizations to our existing forms here. If you have questions on any of these, always you can just click on the contact us if you have questions on how any of these forms are used. All right, so now we've gone through the day-to-day functionality. I'm going to switch over to the reporting and then the calendaring. All right, so let's first off, staff data entry report. So this is an important report here. This is, you're paying for the system. You want to make sure your staff's using it. You have a lot of filtering options. I'm just going to say, click on the last year. Right? You can see here, you still have those filtering options. If I wanted to just see, hey, has Jen been entering her information? I can do that as well. But let's just choose the defaults here. The last year, you can see if we go down to, let's say, for instance, the medication log, which we're expecting our staff to enter every day, you can see here, okay, manager demo entered it. Maybe Jen's on vacation and John, that makes sense. But you can see Martin and Earl, they're not entering the information in the system. You may want to have a discussion with them. Same thing with progress notes. This is just a quick overview to see how many entries they've entered as well in that time period. All right, so now let's go into the treatment plan. So this is kind of like the granddaddy of all the reports. It pulls in over 30 different elements from all different forms in the system, and we're always adding to this. So what you want to do is click Create a Report, right? And let's choose we want to do a report for John Doe. Now you do have lots of options here if you want to just do it for the last 30 days, 90 days, etc. I'm going to use the custom option because this gives me the ability to go back a little bit further, especially with my demo account. I'll make sure I have lots of data to choose from. So let's go back. Actually, let's just go back a year. Maybe let's go to, it's October now. Let's go to October. We want to do John's annual report. So I click Create a New Report. And again, this is going to be a permanent report, a PDF document that's created. You don't have to go back and generate a new report and have unexpected information showing up, because this will be already generated and you can just share it with your auditors or anyone else that needs to have this information. All right, so you click Name of the report. Let's just say John 2021, 2022 report. I'm just putting that. And you have options here. You can, have your staff sign it, resident. You can even have a parent guardian signature line that will print on the report so they can sign it as well. You can also add the review date and time. All right, and we can, so now if I click on this, you see here it says John's summary. So remember when we started, when we were entering John's information, there was a summary section where you can enter all that data about John. It pulls that information over onto this report, so you can actually make changes to it here, because maybe you want to make changes before you actually print it out. So that gives you this option, and then you have lots of reports options here. You can see here there are all kinds of options that you can select on this report. If I, let's say, only wanted to get maybe the goal information on this report, I could just simply select goals, right? But if I wanted to say, all right, you know what? Let's just, just because this is a demo, I want to show all these options. I can then just go and to that demo and just select everything. And you also see you have this option of page breaks. So let's say, for instance, I know that this thing always bleeds over into this, and I want it to be on a separate page after the physical characteristics and diet. I can just choose that, and then this will start off on a new page. All right. So let's go ahead down to, and let's go ahead and preview this. This is pulling over a year's worth of information for all of these different points here. So now we have gone ahead and generated John's yearly report, and now you'll be able to take a look at this and decide if this is the information that you want before you decide if you want to make this a permanent one. So I'm just making this a little bit bigger. So you see here you have John's just some agency information, the time frame of the report, diagnosis information, hobbies, address, emergency contacts, approved caseworker information, physical characteristics and diet, urgent issues and warnings, the high-level summary. This is where you type in all this information about John's goals, the performance of John's goals. So you can see here the numbers, but even better, you can see graphs. Green means good on our graphs. So you can see goals overall, and we're having some problems here. And you can see the individual goals, how he's doing. And obviously, this is where John is struggling the most. He's not met this 92% of the time, which is basically just not trying to leave the day program. All right, again, that's just my example data, insurance information, budget and bank account. You can also see here behavior information, behavior totals. Again, this is for this time frame. You see John's had 36 AWOL attempts during this time frame. The behavior descriptions, as well as a detailed behavior report. So you can literally go to a specific day on a specific month. And because the reason why we're seeing all these months is because we chose a year. You can see here every single thing that John's done. You can see that lots of AWOL attempts is on these specific dates. Also, you can see here anxiety on the 24th of September. You can see graphs related to these behaviors. And then we can go into specific behavior documentation, days where you actually wrote in detailed documentation for those items, contact notes, behavioral health plan, interventions, my favorite section here. If we scroll down to here, you can see this is the behavior, this is the intervention, this is how many times it was successful, This is the number of times it was unsuccessful. So detailed information, your skills, you can see here, John's personal hygiene, comb his own hair. He's done this 38 times with no assistance. He's only needed verbal assistance once. He's struggling. He's needed full assistance here 34 times. He's only needed no assistance 4 times. So this is helpful information. You can see all the doctors and providers, doctor visits. I'm going to scroll through lots of doctor visit information, um, medications, all the details on the medications. And let's continue on. Let's see here, medical information, body assessment. These are some of the forms that we didn't cover. Calendar. You can see, I'm just scrolling through here. Activity logs, whether or not the activities were declined as well. You can see counseling sessions, visual safety checks, vital signs and weight, contact notes, daily food intake, lots of options, right? So you even have these activity codes where you can actually track time logging as well, and that can show up. So let's say, for instance, I'm good with this report. This is exactly what I needed here. I want to save this as a permanent report. I can click Save Report. This now becomes a permanent PDF document that you can always quickly get and refer to from John's record. So if I click Save Report, this is like creating this permanent report. Now we have this, and you can see here a list of all these permanent reports. This is the one I just created. And managers and admin will have the ability to approve these just so they can see, okay, this is the one that we want to use. And of course, you can just filter by the approved and not approved as well. If I ever want to get back to these created reports, I can click on reports. I can go back to treatment plan. And again, this treatment plan is the word that we decided to use. This is customizable in Edit Agency. So instead of me creating a report, I can simply click View Report. I can choose the resident. I can choose John Doe, and it will take me back to this page so I can see a list of these reports. Now, there are a number of other reports. You can see activity log report, agency checklist report. I'll just point out a couple of more that may be important. One is, for instance, a resident reference sheet. If you're going to a doctor, you don't want to go through and pull out this 10-page document regarding the treatment plan. You just want something quick that you can grab for the doctor. And maybe you depends, maybe it's a counseling session, so you don't need the medications. You can uncheck that, and it'll just pull, just key information from John's record, and you have that just quickly in a like a compact printable document that you can have available, for whatever that appointment is. All right. So that's the resident reference sheet. There are a number of other reports. There are billing reports. There are inventory lists, and these are all related to some of the features that we've added as well. And there's one thing that I didn't show in this demonstration is that when we added the progress note, so we clicked add, but we didn't actually see what those look like. If I click on the pencil button to view, by default, these forms will show the last 15 days of information. If you do not choose an option above, if you, let's say, for instance, you wanted to go back to maybe back to the beginning of September, you can click on that, make sure you hit submit, and then it will pull all those records from that time frame. If I want to go back to the default, I just remove that. Now you can see here, you can pick progress notes just for that staff, maybe specific residents, maybe only if they were absent or not absent, or if the goals were met. You'll have lots of options here. You can also just search for a progress note by that title. So if you enter a title there as well, we'll do that. I'm going to click submit. So now I'm back to the last 15 days. You see the option to delete. Again, it's not a permanent delete. You can edit this. You can actually see that this is a sign option. This one, it means it's missing a manager's signature. These ones have all the signatures. And of course, you can hover and preview this. But let's go ahead and also we have the option of emailing, print, or print with page breaks. So what are the differences here? Print with page breaks means that each of these records will start on a new page. So for instance, we're only seeing John's records here, but what if there were other clients and maybe you don't want to print them on the same page? So if I click on that, it will just pull these records up and it will just start each record on a new page as well. So you can see here some agency information, the progress note itself, the information that we had today for this record, the goals information, all the data, all the details that I've entered, including signatures as well. And then you can see the new record starts on this new page. All right. All right, and that concludes our training. Thank you so much. If you have questions, make sure if you after you've signed up anytime, just click on that contact us, create a ticket. It's the easiest way to get in touch with us. We will follow up. And that's the best way to contact us here at CareSoft. Good luck, and you can if you need to reach out, please do, and we're always here to help. All right, thank you.